Okay, amazing. I think we're gonna start as we've got so much to get through today. So if I can change my first slide, here we go. So welcome. I'm Deborah Shebeko, and today my colleague Lenny Noor and myself are going to be your guides. I'm just going to shut my window. And we are both from the social design agency Think Public. And we're also the leads of the Positive Experiences Collective, which is part of the conference today. And so we've designed today as a virtual conference. So it's great that so many people can join from lots of different places, not just in England, but also across the world. And we've kind of designed a session so you can have breaks in between and plenty of time to kind of move around. So maybe you joined this morning's movement session. I was really lucky. I joined Alice's move and mood session, and she was just amazingly dancing in a chair, looking so glamorous, and I learnt lots this morning. Or maybe you moved in your own way, but welcome. So this part of the morning is all about diving into some talks and some detail around the programme. So we're going to start today with why physical literacy matters. And then we have a panel which is going to explore theory into practice of physical literacy. And then before lunch, my colleague Lenny is going to give a talk around co-design for culture and system change. Then we'll pause for lunch and then we'll meet back at 2 o'clock. You all should have signed up and received links to your afternoon groups, which are education, community sport, systems in place, and families and early years. And then after those afternoon presentations, you'll stay in those groups, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak and network with the people in those groups to go into more detail about your practice and gain some insights and share some ideas in the listening circles that we have planned. So throughout the day, you'll probably see lots of emails from us. This is the first time to run a virtual conference as part of the collective, and so any feedback throughout is amazing. So we've sent lots of emails to make sure people know where they're meant to be, but you should also have them in your diaries. But before we start, we just wanted to take a moment to pause and check in with ourselves and to set an intention for the day, as physical literacy is about our relationship with how we move, connect, think and feel. And slowing down and taking a moment to listen to ourselves, listen to our bodies, listen to our minds, and notice how we're showing up can really help us connect more deeply. So I just invite you for a moment to close your eyes or stare out a window or stare at something in your room that you find relaxing. And we're just going to take a few slow, deep breaths. Just breathe slowly in through your nose and out through your mouth. And one more time, breathe slowly in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you're just sitting there, just think about, what would you like to get out of today? What would you like to learn? How would you like to feel? Who would you like to connect with? And just take a moment to notice what pops up into your mind, into your awareness. And I just invite you to maybe share that in the chat so people in this space can see what people are looking out for, and maybe it's an opportunity to notice that someone says something and you can reach out to those people through direct message. As a big part of today is also that we want people to connect with each other, as to kind of make this change and really help translate and put physical literacy into practice is about everyone making those connections. So as you're doing that, I'm going to pass over to Charlie, who's head of children and young people at Sport England, and she's going to talk us through the wider context of physical literacy and why it matters.
Thanks, Deborah. Just checking you can hear me, Deborah.
All good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So thank you, Deborah, and welcome everybody. It's fantastic to see so many colleagues across multiple sectors joining us here today. This is the first time, as Deborah said, that we've organised an event in this way, as we felt an online conference would be much more accessible for partners far and wide. So I wanted to extend my thanks to each and every one of you for joining us here today, And our sincere thanks to Deborah and Lenny for their efforts and creativity in making today happen, one of a first for us here at Sport England. Next slide, please, Deborah. So as Deborah said, I'm Charlie Crane for the Children and Young People Policy Team at Sport England. And I wanted to take a few moments to set the policy context for our work on physical literacy. As the slide shows, we have a clear vision and mission at Sport England that we want sport and physical activity to be a normal part of everyday life for everybody. We have 4 key objectives. Firstly, to increase activity, to decrease inactivity, to tackle inequalities, and to create positive movement experiences for children and young people. Next slide, please, Deborah. So our Active Lives data reinforces why our investment, energy, and expertise is channeled towards these 4 objectives. As the slide shows, only 48% of children and young people are meeting Chief Medical Officer guidelines for physical activity. And although slightly higher at 64%, not enough adults are active enough either. And our research shows that there's inequalities in attitudes and behaviours towards sport and physical activity, with those with 2 or more characteristics of inequality less likely to be active. Next slide, please, Deborah. And when you dig even deeper into the data, it shows that we have a significant enjoyment gap. So only 49% of all children and young people strongly agree that they enjoy taking part in being active. And this drops to only 32% for adults. Now, I'm just going to pause there a second, because when I've shared these statistics with other audiences, it's a real light bulb moment for our why on physical literacy. We now know that too few adults and children are having positive experiences of being active, and this needs to change. To truly address the challenges of inequality and inactivity, we need to act and think differently, and this requires a shift in culture and practice. And that's where our work on physical literacy plays a critical role. Next slide, please, Deborah. So this brings me nicely on to the Physical Literacy Consensus Statement, which was co-developed by 60 partners and published back in 2023. And it represents a significant milestone for our sector. Given the breadth of partners in the room today, I'd like to take a few minutes to walk through the consensus statement infographic, focusing on its core messages at a headline policy level. So at the heart of the statement, as you can see, we now define physical literacy as our relationship with movement and physical activity throughout life. This definition shifts the conversation we're all having around movement from simply doing activity to how and why we move. So starting with the blue triangle, this highlights that our relationship with movement is deeply personal. So a one-size-fits-all approach to getting people more active simply will not work. And that's why we must co-design experiences that feel meaningful, that feel valuable, and that are really enjoyable, so that people find their why for movement, so that they do it again and again and again. And this is very much about the quality of our movement experiences being just as important as counting minutes of activity. Moving then onto the orange box in the middle, and these are the 4 areas of learning and development, which can be viewed in 2 ways. Firstly, they represent the importance of a holistic approach to engagement in movement. As if we support development across move, connect, think and feel, we help people to build the agency and the autonomy to engage in movement in ways that enrich their lives. And secondly, the orange box reminds us that moving more brings benefits far beyond physical health. It reflects the incredible return on investment, £4.20 for every £1 spent on sport and physical activity, while also showing how movement helps build life skills, it supports emotional well-being, and it strengthens communities. And this is more important than ever, because when 1 in 5 children will have a probable mental health condition, it's really helping us to tackle these societal challenges as well. So finally, the consensus statement also provides a helpful framework to explore inequalities that I've already talked through. It helps us to recognise and respond to the wide range of factors that powerfully influence a person's relationship with movement in both positive and negative ways. As we know, it isn't a level playing field when it comes to people's opportunities and experiences of being active. So for me, the consensus statement has become the North Star I didn't even know I was looking for. After more than 2 decades of working in our sector, navigating shifting priorities and emerging challenges, this statement brings it all together for me. It offers a clear and cohesive lens through which we can understand and co-design positive experiences, particularly in childhood, that build the foundations for a lifelong, meaningful relationship with movement, leading to a happier, healthier, and more resilient nation, which is our core purpose here today on today's call. So that's very much our why for our work on physical literacy here at Sport England. But we know that this work is brought to life most powerfully at a local level. So I'm really pleased to hand over to Rebecca Skinner at Active Devon and Marcus Pritchard from the Ted Ragg Multi-Academy Trust to share their why for physical literacy. So next slide, please, Deborah, and over to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Charlie. So I work, Rebecca Skinner from Active Devon, and then we're doing a big piece of work in Plymouth. So physical literacy has proven to be a really valuable concept and framework for our place-based work here in Plymouth. So we've been actively applying and translating physical literacy into practice. And a big part of our approach has just been really simple. We've been working with partners and connecting them with their own relationship with physical activity and movement. So like I say, this is a super simple strategy, but it has turned out to be a really powerful tool. It's helping our partners to understand the importance of physical literacy in a meaningful and personal way, and it's really helping them to think differently. What's been really encouraging is that we're now hearing the language of physical literacy being used back at us in meetings. So physical literacy has become a real unifier, and it is starting to create a shared language and a common understanding across sectors and across the life course. But so whilst the concept of physical literacy is easy to grasp, embedding it into an organisation's culture and policies and practices, and then using it as a guiding framework definitely requires deeper work and strategic alignment. So that's why we've been embarked on an intensive piece of work with Plymouth City Council Youth Service and Ted Ragg Multi-Academy Trust, where Marcus is from, through the help of the Patchwork Programme. And together we are creating long-term sustainable cultural change and improvements in practice. Moving forward for Plymouth, physical literacy absolutely isn't going anywhere. So Plymouth has been invited by Sport England to be a place partner, and physical literacy is embedded as a core lens throughout the entire place-based whole system piece of work, which we are super excited about. So watch this space. But just wanted to do a shout out to Charlie and the Patchwork team. That's Marcus's school bell. Keeping it real, Marcus, I love that. But yeah, big thank you to everyone involved with the Patchwork Programme. This opportunity has truly helped us push forward and accelerate this work in Plymouth. So thank you. And like I say, watch this space. Over to you, Marcus.
Morning all. Sorry about that, Belle. Break time here. So I got brought into this by, I was invited to a meeting, into a meal, and I got asked this question by Gethin, who's a consultant and a lecturer at Bangor. Next slide, please, Deborah. And I quite confidently and quite happily said, probably lowball, 80 to 85% of our students would stay in PE and would happily join in and enjoy physical activity. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, because I then started to dig a little bit into the numbers. So give or take, our numbers fluctuate slightly. We've got 860 students at my individual school at St Luke's within our trust. And that figure that I said equates to, if we go to the top number, 731 students are enjoying PE out of our cohort. Next slide, please. However, that then means that roughly 30 pupils a year in the system that I've been a part of for 12 years and the system that I've been leading for a couple of years, 30 pupils a year are turned off physical activity. And that's 30 pupils a year who might for the rest of their life have a really negative experience based on what we're doing at my school, that might then, in terms of snowballing effects, have poor physical health, which will lead to lifelong problems, poor mental health and poor social health, or not have the capacity to use physical activity to be able to help support their mental and social health, which roughly worked out at 360 people I've been an assistant for that has turned people off physical activity. And I'm going along thinking I'm doing a great job. We do really well nationally in competitions. We do really well locally in county and regional competitions. And I'm going along thinking this is, we're doing all right here. And then this question just turned everything on my head. And I was like, this isn't okay. And that was the real question that really turned things for me and made me opened my eyes, start to contact with Charlie at Sport England, to work with Deborah and Lenny at the Patchwork Programme, and through Active Devon really start to build local connections. And we've really started to make a huge impact across our whole trust. Next slide, please. So this isn't just about just my school. This is my trust are based in Devon, and I'm the network lead for PE here. So this is bigger than just me. This is bigger than just my 860 pupils. This is about really impacting the benefit of physical activity for just, give or take, 15,500 students in our work within these next 5 years, and obviously that will keep growing, and that's why it really matters to me and why we've started to do stuff in our trust. That's me.
Thank you, Marcus. That's fantastic. And I have to say, Rebecca, Marcus, it's been a real pleasure to have you involved in the Patchwork programme this year. And they are delivering as part of the education thematic group this afternoon, along with lots of other partners, both on our panel this morning and this afternoon's Patchwork in Practice session. So a big thank you, and well done for all the great work happening. I am conscious of time, so before I hand back to Deborah and Lenny, I just wanted to let you know that we've published a range of tools and resources on the Positive Experiences Collective website today, which are available for any partner to use to advocate for and adopt a physical literacy informed approach to their work. It includes a short animation, a toolkit to get personal before professional with physical literacy, a comprehensive slide deck walking through the consensus statement in a lot more detail than I've had time for today, and a how to get started guide for those working in education, planning and community settings. And we plan to publish more sector guidance later this year to help you get started. We hope you find these tools and resources useful. If you do have any feedback, we would love to hear from you. And finally, as I wrap up this context session, I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the many, many partners who have played such an instrumental role in supporting the Positive Experiences Collective over the last 9 months. Your time, energy, insight and commitment have been vital. You all know who you are, and quite simply, we wouldn't be where we are today without each and every one of you. So honestly, on behalf of our team here at Sport England and Think Public, we just wanted to extend our huge thanks. So that's everything from me for now. So I'll hand back over to Deborah and Lenny.
Great, thank you, Charlie. Hi, everyone. My name is Lenny, part of the Positive Experiences Collective team and the Think Public team. So I'm just going to very quickly share some context on where the Positive Experiences Collective came from. And it was as Charlie mentioned, it was a huge moment for children and young people and the sector back in September 2023, the launch of the consensus statement. And many of you were there at the RSA in London. It was a real moment for people working in this space to sort of agree on a shared language for our relationship with movement and physical activity throughout life. And so the question really became, where do we go from here? And it's one thing to have convened the interdisciplinary working group, to have co-designed the statement and to have launched it to the sector. But it's another to put physical literacy informed approaches into practice, real world, tangible practice. And so the most common things we hear are, what does physical literacy look like in an educational setting? What does it look like in community sport? What does it look like in a range of different settings for children and young people? What should we be doing to change? What would we be seeing if we're doing it right? And so the Positive Experiences Collective was set up to not only capture 1 or 2 stories of best practice, or to sort of talk hypothetically about what best practice could or should look like. It was created to accelerate a physical literacy informed approach, literacy informed approaches with groups all across the country, to sort of demonstrate that physical literacy is not just about changing one thing, but instead treating it like a patchwork. And so that's where the name sort of for the Patchwork program came, was these a range of different approaches coming together. And that'll be a real theme of what you hear today. So I'll pass back over to Deborah.
Thanks, Lenny. So ultimately, like in terms of, I guess, where this is coming from, our backgrounds are in design, service design, looking at social issues. And so when crafting the design of the Positive Experiences Collective and the Patchwork Programme, it's kind of the Patchwork Programme is really underpinned by co-design, because ultimately all of this work that we're talking about is about people collaborating together to make change. And so the Patchwork Programme is also about leadership, because in order to kind of make these changes as leaders in our different communities, in our different roles, we need to sense into and feel into different ways of kind of like working and bringing these conversations to new places, new systems. And this stuff can be quite hard. It's not easy when you're trying to bring in a new method or use new language that other people in your workforce or in your community haven't heard before. So the Patchwork Programme will support 24 teams across 2 years. And each team is made up roughly of about 3 different organisations. So it's truly collaborative and with a systems focus, bringing together quite unique partnerships that may not have happened otherwise. And so here's a photo of cohort 1. And each of the teams here are taking a very different approach to translating physical literacy into practice. And so it's going to be great this afternoon where you'll get to hear from each of the 12 teams in the different groups. This is a quick snapshot of where the first cohort are kind of coming from across England. We have 8 teams that are working more locally and 4 teams that are working at a national level. And this is also a little taster of like how the Patchwork Programme has been designed and how it works across 5 key gatherings, where the first gathering is looking at how do we lead through change, how do we sense into our roles as individuals and as organisations, and how do we lay the foundations for good engagement and collaboration. And then that moves on to co-design, and actually, you know, how do we go out and best kind of co-design with communities, children and young people, and how do we then bring all those insights back together, which we do in Gathering 3, which is all around, okay, we've got all of these ideas, but how do we kind of narrow them down, align them to strategy and work a way forward? And then the 4th gathering is all around, well, once we've got this sense of what's possible, how do we start to prototype and bring these ideas to life and prototype for the future? And then the final gathering is around storytelling. So I'm just going to share a few snaps from across the virtual and in-person gatherings, which are all about providing space to connect and learn. And so a big part of the programme is actually learning from each other in different contexts and sharing those tools and practice. We also had an inspirational visit to the Design Museum to learn about how design underpins the products, systems, services that are all around us. And in fact, exploring that in all of our work, we're all making design decisions every day that impact people's experiences. So in the way that we deliver services to children and young people, how we greet people, there are all these small interactions that make up someone's experience. So we also experimented with ways of bringing ideas to life through prototyping, and how this actual method of prototyping can really help engage children and young people, wider system stakeholders. By putting something down on paper, it brings it to life. And I really love the IDEO quote, which is, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype's worth 1,000 meetings, because actually if you make something tangible, you all are then looking at the same thing, rather than when we're talking about something, we conceptually might have something different in our minds. So I just quickly want to show you a little snapshot of one team from each of the 4 areas, so you can get a feel for what's to come later. So in the education theme, just highlighting the team from Withensea and Humber that have been working to build a physical literacy informed approach across PE, schools, sports and physical activity, so that every child can have a positive experience during their formative years. Their work has also kick-started some exciting partnerships with public health, youth services, exploring how the physical literacy consensus statement can be used to enhance the experiences of young people and their families and communities. Then in the community sport team, we have the Junior Adventures Group team that are working internally to embed the principles of physical literacy in their extra curriculum activity programmes, which is accessed by thousands of children and young people each week in most deprived areas. This is also really exciting because of their reach and potential plans for a national rollout through breakfast clubs. And then we have the team, the Active Families team from Norfolk, who are working to explore the relationships with young parents and how this has an impact on their child's movement, their relationship with movement. And they're testing and evolving their families programme that operates in the most deprived areas of Norfolk, with a focus on finding parent champions to run further sessions using physical literacy and co-design principles. And then finally, an example from the System and Place cohort is the team Happy Healthily. This is the only planning team involved in the Patchwork programme, which has provided some unique insights into the work. They are working with children and young people and local communities to co-design what positive movement experiences could look like for a new 4,000 home housing development. And they're using the principles of the consensus statement to respond to what children and young people have said, but also to help build a planning proposal. So loads of really exciting stories to come, and we are going to be making and publishing some of those stories in the summer, so keep a lookout on the website, but also you can hear more from them today. And so this gives you a high level overview of what's been happening and other ways you can get involved. So we've talked about the Patchwork programme, but we've also been running listening circles throughout the year, and will continue into next year. And they're virtual spaces that anyone's welcome to come to share ideas about embedding physical literacy and positive experiences into practice. And then we have obviously the conference today. We plan to do it again next June, so it'll be interesting to see how it evolves in the year. And then also the website, the Positive Experiences Collective.org, with assets on it that Charlie mentioned as well. But finally, just to end, we are launching today the call for applications for cohort 2. So if you're interested, maybe there's something that piques your interest today, have a look, and then you can also register to attend our virtual Q&A on the 17th of July at 2 o'clock if you've got any questions, and we'd love to see some amazing applications.